Hello, everybody. Mikey Lito here, and welcome to another edition of Live After Midnight. I apologize for those of you who tuned in on time and heard absolutely nothing. Anyway, I've been a little bit busy all day, and so I've been unaware of things that have been happening all around Disney World, and I mean that in a global sense. And so once I was checking the trade papers tonight, all kinds of interesting things have been happening at the Walt Disney Company. And I hadn't seen anybody talk about it. So I figured that I would spend at least a little bit of time talking about it tonight. So, as we all know, and as we talked about last week, the state of Florida is passing a bill. The bill has already passed, and the governor says that he is going to sign it, called Parents' Rights in Education, which has been colloquially called the Don't Say Gay bill. And today, after a week of cajoling Bob Chapek, the CEO of the Disney company, to react more forcefully, Disney employees took it on their own and walked out all over the company. So let's take a look. The most recent article I have is from the Hollywood Reporter. Disney walkout spurs in person action in Burbank. Social media reaction from Disney stars. And workers at the Walt Disney Animation Studio say they received support, no questions asked to participate in the walkout. But little demonstration has been seen at either of the Disney parks. This was written by Abby White, and it was at 3:53 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which was 6:53 on the East Coast of the United States. Employees across Disney's various divisions participated in physical and virtual walkouts on Tuesday in a show of solidarity with Florida-based Disney workers, particularly cast members and other parks employees. On social media, workers at the Walt Disney Studios complex in Burbank, California, have shared their own participation in person protest, which kicked off officially at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The voluntary walkout was organized by at Disney Walkout and is running between the local hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Tuesday. This is a tweet from Rebecca Perez saying Disney Animation Studio employees full day Disney walkout, Disney do better, Disney say gay, supporting our fellow Florida coworkers and LGBTQIA plus community solidarity. And there's a picture of all the Burbank Disney employees in front of the Disney Animation Building in Burbank, California. Employees at the Walt Disney Company's various divisions were encouraged ahead of Tuesday to participate either virtually or physically, depending on their level of employment protection and comfort level. Organizers cautioned the Walt Disney Company employees who wanted to take part in a physical protest that it is not a legally protected action, but gave instructions for LGBTQ employees and allies who did make the choice to participate to set specific email and Slack away messages indicating their support of the effort. This is what I found most impressive. LGBTQ employees and allies who work at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, Disney Plus, ABC Network, FX, ESPN, National Geographic, Hulu, Walt Disney Studios, Pixar Animation Studios, Marvel Studios, Lucasfilm, 20th Century Studios, Searchlight pitchers, and more were invited to take part in today's action. And let's see when this story was posted about Disney companies. This is also from yesterday. Earlier in the day at 8:16 a.m., Hulu. No, we don't need that video. Hulu, Disney Plus, and more have published solidarity statements on the same day as planned in-person walkouts by employees in response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which the official name of the bill is Parental Rights and Education Act. Hulu, Disney Plus, National Geographic, FX, and Disney Parks are among the major Walt Disney Company divisions sharing public statements on their official social media channels Tuesday, expressing solidarity with their LGBTQ employees and denouncing anti-LGBTQ legislation. The responses follow a series of virtual workouts last week sponsored by Disney employees and arrived the same day as organizers invited employees across the company's various arms to physically walk out in protest of its initial public silence on Florida's HB 1557, the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, and demand more from Disney to stop the legislation's passing. That includes LGBTQ employees and allies at, and it mentions all the companies that I mentioned earlier. In its own solidarity statement, referring to employees as Hulugans, cute, Disney acquired streamer Hulu addressed both creative inclusion and anti-LGBTQ legislation. Quoting, "We stand with our LGBTQIA plus colleagues, storytellers, families, friends, and fans who are targeted by laws that marginalize and diminish their identities and lives," the Hulu account tweeted. "We remain committed to telling inclusive stories that unite us and celebrate the diverse LGBTQIA plus community." And there are Hulu's tweets. Disney Plus delivered a similar statement saying the company strongly denounces all legislation that infringes on the basic human rights of people in the LGBTQIA community, especially legislation that targets and harms young people, as has Disney Parks, Disney Cruise Lines, National Geographic, FX, ESPN, and ABC Network. A tweet from ESPN. ESPN believes in inclusivity and denounces legislation and actions across the United States. Excuse me, we're getting feedback. Um, Hello, John. I see you out there in the audience. Thanks for saying hi. Going back to this article now, ESPN believes in inclusivity and denounces legislation and actions across the United States that infringes on human rights. We stand with our LGBTQIA plus colleagues, friends, families, and fans. Marvel Studios published its own statement around a week ago, writing, "We strongly denounce any and all legislation that infringes on the basic human rights of the LGBTQIA plus community. Marvel Studios stands for hope, inclusion, and strength, and we proudly stand with the community." And that was their tweet from March the 15th. So it was exactly a week ago. The voluntary workout planned for Tuesday between the local hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. follows a list of demands posted by anonymous Disney employees to the at Disney Walkout Twitter on March 14th and at a website for the walkout, whereischapek.com, asking the company to take broader and more permanent action against the lawmakers who supported and voted for HB 1557. The Don't Say Gay bill, formerly known as the Parental Rights and Education bill, was passed by Florida State Senate on March 8th and is awaiting signature from Governor Ron DeSantis, who is expected to sign it into law. The bill has been labeled by the ACLU of Florida as a government censorship bill and essentially bans classroom discussion on sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade by school officials and third parties. Excuse me. In a statement posted to Twitter Tuesday, the Disney Walkout Twitter supported the public social media statements, quoting, "They were tirelessly advocated for by our own LGBTQIA plus coworkers to show support today." They tweeted in response to a claim that Disneyland cast members were told they weren't allowed to wear Disney-made pride pins Tuesday. Quoting again, "It's an act of magic and it is a true marker of how far we've pushed. We've helped move some of the biggest brands in the world to stand up for what's right to try and protect the LGBTQIA plus families, children, and general community in Florida. Today is just starting." Among the walkout organizers' biggest demands is a firmer stance on ceasing political donations to Florida politicians who voted for the bill. In an internal statement to employees on Friday, March 11th, the Disney CEO, that's Bob Chapek, said the company would pause all political donations in the state. But walkout organizers are asking the company to permanently end donations, specifically to lawmakers who backed the bill. They've also demanded that the company stop relocating employees to the state after Disney announced in July 2021 that it would be relocating 2,000 employees from California to the Lake Nona campus in Florida. Other asks include stopping construction and investment in the state until the bill is dead, and an outline of spending and plans for content that increases LGBTQ representation. The walkouts follow a series of statements made by Chapek in internal company memos and a shareholder meeting during the week of March 7th, in which the Disney CEO walked back the company's initial stance against releasing a public statement denouncing the bill as, quoting, "They are often weaponized by one side or the other to further divide and inflame." By Friday, Chapek had apologized to workers and committed to rethinking the company's political funding. So this is a story from the Sarasota Herald Tribune, written by Zach Anderson and published Tuesday morning at 12:27 p.m. and updated at 3:26 p.m. DeSantis says he will soon sign so-called "Don't Say Gay" bill, again criticizes Disney. As Disney employees staged the walkout Tuesday to protest legislation dubbed by critics the "Don't Say Gay" bill, Governor Ron DeSantis took aim at the bill's opponents, saying they are supporting sexual instruction for young kids. I'll let that sink in for a while. Quoting, "Understand, if you are out protesting this bill, you are by definition putting yourself in favor of injecting sexual instruction to 5, 6, and 7-year-old kids," DeSantis said during a press conference in Pasco County. "I think most people think that's wrong. I think parents especially think that's wrong." The controversial legislation states that classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. LGBTQ rights organizations say the bill could discriminate against gay and transgender individuals and cause a chilling effect against students even discussing their LGBTQ families. Disney leaders were criticized by some employees for not taking a strong stance against the bill until after it already cleared the legislation. Company CEO Bob Chapek later came out against the legislation, saying he called DeSantis, quote, to express our disappointment and concern that if legislation becomes law, it could be used to target gay, lesbian, non binary, and transgender kids and families. And here it comes, sports fans. In response, DeSantis lashed out at woke Disney. You have companies like a Disney that are going to say and criticize parents' rights. They're going to criticize the fact that we don't want, and here's the real deal here. Let me start again. You have companies like a Disney that are going to say and criticize parents' rights. They're going to criticize the fact that we don't want transgenderism in kindergartens and first grade classrooms, DeSantis told a group of supporters recently. So, yes, folks, he said it out loud. This is really targeting transgenders. DeSantis repeated his criticism of Disney Tuesday, saying the company bought into false narratives about the bill. Some Disney employees also are still unhappy with the company and are calling for stronger actions in response to the bill. They want Disney to stop donating to legislators who supported the bill, stop relocating workers to Florida, and stop new investments in the state until the law is repealed. Disney's actions surrounding the legislation also have some Florida Democrats questioning whether the party should be holding a fundraiser in June at Walt Disney World. Stephen Gaskell, the head of the party's LGBTQ plus caucus, told NBC News that Disney World is the last place the Florida Democratic Party should be holding a fundraiser, especially during Pride Month. The governor said Tuesday that he plans to sign the controversial legislation relatively soon. DeSantis framed the bill, HB 1557, dubbed by supporters as the Parental Rights in Education Act, as part of a broader effort, which means they're not finished, noting that he signed legislation last year, and here we go again, prohibiting transgender athletes from participating in women's sports at the high school and college levels. So, again, like I said earlier, it's pretty clear who the Republicans' target is. DeSantis pointed to Emma Wyant, a collegiate swimmer who grew up in Sarasota, Florida. Wyant recently lost the NCAA women's title in the 500-yard freestyle to a transgender swimmer. She had the fastest time of any woman in college athletics, DeSantis said of Wyant. Now the NCAA is basically taking efforts to destroy women's athletics. They're trying to undermine the integrity of the competition, and they're crowning somebody else the women's champion, and we think that's wrong. DeSantis signed a proclamation Tuesday declaring Wyant the rightful winner. And so I don't know. I feel I feel protective of our transgender sisters and brothers, and this is just the beginning. This is a look at the slippery slope in action. So Mr. Chapek is under some pressure, and what he is going to do about the increasing amount of opposition inside his own company and what the board of directors are going to do with him is really quite interesting to see what's going to happen there. So, in the meantime, along to happier things, we have a stream coming up this coming Thursday that hopefully is completely apolitical. Um, let me bring this on. And that is Mikey Lito's Multiplex. We're going to have our first live stream with my guest, Jeremiah, who was frequently seen on Robert Meyer Burnett's Robservations Midnighter, as was I. And we're going to have a discussion about superheroes and superhero content from both Marvel Studios and from DC Films. And that is going to be Thursday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, uh, 9 p.m. Central Time, and 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And for our international viewers, that means Friday a.m. at 2 a.m. And hopefully, folks will join us. And I guess I'm going to sign off for the night. I just really find this entire situation in Florida quite upsetting. And Bob Chapek's reaction similarly upsetting it. And we'll just have to see what happens in the days to come. So I guess I will say good night, and hopefully we'll see you guys again on Thursday night. Have a pleasant couple of days. Ciao.